worried, and they're worried about what the future holds. We've also seen some really worrying signals in the economy recently. Obviously, we've faced unprecedented challenges with tariffs and economic action that has been unjustified, but certainly nonetheless having a deep impact in several sectors of our economy. And oftentimes, vulnerable populations is where you see the unemployment rate show up first. And so we are looking at a higher unemployment rate for youth than we've seen in decades, certainly not anything we could have imagined a decade ago. And so on top of all those economic uncertainties, we also see changes in technology, something that the young people were telling me about in describing in words that I could understand how even just in 5 years since I was the Minister of Jobs last, things have changed tremendously in the way that, for example, the technological impact of AI and other emerging technologies are changing the way that people are being utilized in a variety of different sectors. And this puts young people on a very unstable footing. There's nothing more unsettling, as Caitlin and Salar told me, than going through school, doing all the right things, getting a degree or a diploma, and then not being able to land that job. You know, the promise that we all get when we put in the effort of trying to improve our opportunities in life is that there will be a reward at the end, which is stable paid employment. And we have to make sure that we keep that contract for young people. We want to make sure that young people feel that those investments in themselves are going to result in the kinds of opportunities that they hope and they dream for. And yet, some sectors like STEM, environmental science, agriculture, the skilled trades, all report facing workplace shortages. And so my job as the Minister of Jobs and Families, as under Prime Minister Carney, is to better understand what the mismatch is between what employers are telling us in the workforce in terms of the skilled shortages that they're facing and what young people and skilled people are telling us in terms of their challenges to find jobs. And so this work that we do with community through the youth employment strategy is critical because it is with people that are closest to the ground, are collecting the data and understand what is happening in our rapidly changing workforce and what we can do better to make sure that there is a skills match between the young people in our country and some middle-aged people in our country and what employers are saying that they need and the gaps that they report that they are facing. And so today is about making sure that the next generation can actually succeed in this rapidly changing landscape. And so today the Government of Canada is announcing that we're investing $26.1 million in 6 new projects under ESDC's Youth Employment and Skills Strategy. And these projects will bring together service providers, employers, and youth to better match the skills and talents that young people have with the needs of employers that are seeking that talent. 2 of these 6 projects actually address the unique employment challenges faced by youth with disabilities. And I have to say, as the minister responsible for disabilities, that makes my heart sing because indeed people with disabilities have the highest unemployment rates in our country and in fact have extremely high rates of education. So we can do a better job making sure that people with disabilities have an opportunity to fully participate, and we can't actually afford to waste that talent and leave that talent behind. Each of these 6 projects are diverse and each has a unique focus. So I've spoken a little bit about Prepper, but Prepper Foundation and its partners are developing and testing a helpful set of tools called the Impact Measurement Blueprint, and I understand Kosua Algaratnam is in the room today. Oh, there you are. Okay, nice to meet you. I hope I said your name somewhat okay. Okay, yes, I understand, familiar problem. But it's very great to see that partnership because obviously these tools and the data that organizations are collecting helps us understand as a government, federal government, and hopefully provincial governments how better to streamline the kinds of skills training we're providing with the kinds of needs that evolving industries and technology are demanding. In addition to these 6 collaborative projects, we've already invested $393 million in over 240 youth-focused initiatives under the YES program. These are projects that are tailored to individual needs and directly affect the lives of over 23,600 young people. And they are projects that help with significant barriers, and they're very diverse. So today we're talking about a very specific set of young people. There are other young people that can be even further from the labor market, and the youth employment strategy, as I said, relies heavily on partners at community levels who are working deep within the community, know the young people, know the challenges they're facing, and know what will help them develop their skills and their talent, and in some cases their confidence and their ability to be able to find a good match in the labor market. 80% of participants are either employed or they return to school following their participation in YES programming. That's a really great data point. It means that largely these investments, which are significant, actually result in attachment to workplace or further education. Thomas is in the room with us today. Thomas is now working for Prepper. Oh, there you are, Thomas. He joined Prepper's Fund program 3 years ago as a participant looking to grow his skills, and that opportunity changed the trajectory of his career. He was hired as an intern here, and today he serves as Prepper's Technical Solutions Manager. What a full circle moment. I was telling Thomas that years ago, when I was in my 20s, I actually dropped out of university the first time I went to Glendon College here in Toronto at Bayview and Lawrence. I was 18 when I landed in the city. I was the first in my family to pursue post-secondary education. And so for all those reasons, and many more, it was a challenging journey, and I dropped out of university, and I worked in the city for a bit. And when I went back to Thunder Bay, I had sort of very temporary employment, and I was on unemployment insurance. And in those days, there was a program called Section 25, which offered employers the opportunity to hire a young person really at no expense to them. And so I got hired in a not-for-profit called the Thunder Bay Literacy Group. And the Thunder Bay Literacy Group gave me the job of creating an adult learner library. Adults who learn to read are reading materials that are often lower literacy levels, and my job was to figure out how to index all this material. It was a fantastic opportunity, and 2 years later, when they were looking for a graphic designer and materials creator, I applied for the job and I got it. And it was one of my first professional jobs. In fact, it was my first professional job, and it gave me the kinds of skills and opportunities that I needed in order to be able to take the next steps, including return to post-secondary education. And so I think about that story as I think about Thomas, because it's exactly those kinds of moments where a young person is given a chance, hired in a professional field, introduced in some cases to a new sector or a new way of thinking about the world or a new set of people or a new circle, and those social relationships, those new skills, and that new interest in an area that maybe that person never saw before their journey in education is the pathway to their thriving career. And so that's why I think government is important and powerful, because we do have the capacity to be able to provide the support for organizations like Prepper and the many others that do this work, that help introduce young people to new ideas, new people, new ways of working, and open doors to careers and entire worlds that they didn't know exist. We put a lot of pressure on young people to try to figure out what they want to be. In fact, it's probably one of the first questions we ask young people, which upon reflection, I'm a mother of 2 boys as well, is a little bit of an unfair question, really. It's an unfair question because at 7 or 8 or 10 or 15 or 18 or even 25, you're not really sure what the world holds. I didn't know, for example, there's an entire world of politics complete with staffers and communications experts and operations directors and policy experts that exist separate from the civil service. How could I have ever possibly known that at 18 years old? And yet here I am existing in that world. And I think the more we do to introduce young people to the variety of workplace worlds that exist, the more we give them opportunities to thrive. So I'm thrilled to be here. I'm excited about what the future holds for these young people and the many others that will be served by these organizations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Hajdu, for your leadership and for championing opportunities that help young people build skills and careers. Our next speaker is Caitlin McDonough, our Chief Learning Officer at Prepper. Caitlin leads our innovation and workforce development strategy, designing learn-by-doing programs, micro-learning pathways, and employer-validated projects that equip youths with future-ready skills in product marketing, data, and AI. She works closely with partners across education, industry, and government to turn real challenges into real experiences for emerging talents. Please welcome Caitlin McDonough.
Thank you, Slar, for the warm introduction. And thank you, Minister Hajdu, for your leadership and for today's announcement. At Prepper, our Strategic Collaborations Project is focused on something essential but often overlooked: how we measure impact in youth employment. We've supported over 230 young people in recent programming, and nearly 80% of them secured jobs in their field. Over 180 identified as visible minorities, and we're pleased to share that many of them were also from Black communities, newcomers, and women. But like many organizations in this space, we've also seen the challenge. How do we consistently capture the long-term impact of that work? How do we move beyond outputs and towards real measurable outcomes? That's why we're building the Impact Measurement Blueprint, a national initiative designed to equip youth-serving organizations with the tools, training, and infrastructure they need to strengthen programming and track outcomes and communicate the full impact of their work. And before I say more, I want to share one of those stories with you. Jobert came to Prepper in the fall of 2021. He had completed a college diploma in 2014 and did a private upskilling program in 2019. But despite all his efforts, he couldn't get a job in his field. He was working as a punch press operator. It paid the bills, but it didn't match his ambition or his skill. Through Prepper's employment training and support, we helped him build the confidence and experience to take that next step. And we matched him with Kinme Technologies through our Quality Employment Opportunities initiative. And 3 years later, he's still there, thriving as a full-stack software developer. His employer, Robert, shared this: "Our experience working with Prepper has been nothing short of wonderful. Jobert has become an important part of our team. He is not only a skilled full-stack developer, but also a trusted voice who helps us move projects forward and manage expectations. Honestly, we would not be where we are today without him." Jobert's journey is a success story, but it's also a reminder of how hard it is to consistently track outcomes like his across programs, timelines, and organizations. And just as importantly, how challenging it can be to replicate that success or identify where things fall short. That's the gap the Impact Measurement Blueprint is designed to fill. With support from the Youth Employment Skills Strategy, we're working with partners across the country to co-create a shared national approach to measuring what really matters: skill development, job quality, and long-term success. Through this initiative, we're not only improving our own practices, we're also helping build shared capacity across the youth employment sector. Because we know that when organizations can learn from their data, reflect on their outcomes, and adapt their programming, everyone benefits, especially the youth that we serve. At Prepper, we're all about making education accessible. We use hands-on learning and digital skills training to help youth build transferable skills and showcase their work so they can gain experience, get hired, and grow. And now, through this initiative, we're extending the same commitment to the ecosystem, working with career practitioners and youth-serving organizations to make success not only possible, but measurable. As Uzma Jafrani from the Career Foundation, another one of our partners on this initiative, put it, the Career Foundation is always seeking better ways to capture impact, reflect on what's working, and continuously improve our programs. We're excited about Prepper's Impact Measurement Blueprint that will fill critical data gaps on youth employment. At the Partner Summit, we began building a shared approach to measuring outcomes that truly matter. With support from the Youth Employment Skills Strategy, this initiative is going to give us practical tools to strengthen accountability, drive better results for the communities we serve. Because when we can measure what matters, we can do more of what works, and we can do it together. Thank you.
All right, on behalf of Prepper, thank you all for being here and for everything you do to strengthen youth capacity across communities. Before we move to the group photo, please note that our dignitaries will be available for media questions here at the front of the room. Following media availability, we'll invite everyone to join for the official group photo. Thank you.
Unless you want to do it.
Bonjour tout le monde. My name is Natalie, and I'll be moderating today's media availability. Je suis la modératrice aujourd'hui. We'll be doing the one question, one follow-up format. Nous utilisons le format d'une question et une suivi. Merci.
Hello, Pat Darrow from CTV News. So with all these programs, what's the plan to get the word out? Are you visiting high schools? Are you posting TikTok? How do we reach all these youth?
Well, I actually will turn to the partners to talk about the work that they do.
And can you comment before you do that the numbers for youth unemployment are?
Yeah. Yeah, as I said in my speech, we know that youth unemployment is rising, and it's actually a very concerning trend. And although there's no one single reason why, the fact that it's going up is significantly concerning. And so that's why we invested more in Canada Summer Jobs this summer to try to help youth, even I think it was 6,000 more youth find jobs this summer. That's why we have to continue to invest in programs like the ones we spoke about today. It's also why we have to continue to invest in affordable education. So I skipped a part of my speech, which I will tell you right now, which is that we are going to extend the temporary 40% increase to student grants through the Canada Student Financial Assistance Program. This will help about almost 600,000 students that were expected to receive the benefit this year. And we're extending the temporary increase to the interest-free Canada student loan limit to about $300 per week of study. So again, as expenses are going up, we're matching that with the supports for students that are pursuing post-secondary. But I think, as I listen to some of the young people who, by the way, do have post-secondary education and skills training, it is still a complex landscape to get employment, and that's why organizations like Prepper and many others are there to help navigate young people through that experience. And I think paid intern experience is very valuable because it provides that young person with an actual work experience in their field. And I can tell you from the previous time that I was a Minister of Employment, those job matching opportunities, whether it's through the Skills Work Experience program where young people get paid internships in sectors that they've studied to be a participant in, actually results in stronger attachment to the labor force. I think we're going to have to keep our eye on making sure that the suite of supports that we have federally really match what the provinces are doing as well, and that this is really an all hands on deck moment for Canada, both from the economic shock perspective that we're seeing in a variety of sectors like lumber and steel, but also in the way that it's impacting particularly young people.
My follow-up, I'll get to you right after, is related, not related. Premier Doug Ford has said he wants the feds to sort of mandate everybody back to work 5 days a week. Where's the federal government on that?
Well, departments are working through the best mix for employees in federal agencies, and I would say that that is, look at the purview of Premier Ford, but for the federal government, we're working with our own deputies and with the President of the Treasury Board to make sure that we have a civil service that can meet the needs and the expectations of Canadians.
And I'll speak briefly about youth recruitment. So obviously we're one organization of many within the youth employment sector. For us, reaching youth, it's multifaceted, right? There's not any one channel. It is, as you mentioned, sometimes it is through social media, but it's also through things like job boards and community partners and people who are on the ground, and even referrals from other youth who have been in the program. So, it really is multifaceted, and I would say it also really needs to suit the community that you're serving, right? So for us, we deal a lot with people who as Minister Hajdu mentioned earlier, like they've been through post-secondary, whether it's college or university. We do take some from high school, but many already have degrees and diplomas, and they're struggling with that transition to the workforce. So that also shapes our messaging and our approach to recruitment.
Hi, my question is for Minister Hajdu. Dave Lau at CBC News. Minister, my question for you is, I want to sort of talk about, this week's cabinet meeting. I wanted to ask what you think the focus of this meeting is, and what is one concrete move you want to come out of that meeting?
Well, thank you very much. Obviously, can't discuss cabinet deliberations because they're confidential, but I would say that it's a safe bet to say that we're talking about the Build Canada Strong agenda. As you know, we have an ambitious plan. We've recently announced, as you know, that we have a CEO of the Major Projects Coalition Office. We'll be talking about proposed projects, and I think you'll be hearing more about that in the near future. This is a very ambitious government, and I can tell you that the Prime Minister is focused on the speed of delivery. And so I imagine we'll have a lot to talk about over the next couple days.
Would you be able to say whether or not this cabinet meeting would address, calls for more sectoral support for the industries hit hard by the American tariffs?
I would say that we've already made a number of important announcements for sectoral support and support for workers, particularly for steel and lumber, and I think you've heard those announcements. Obviously, we will be looking at the whole landscape of how the impact of tariffs is affecting the Canadian economy, and Canadian workers is my sort of area of I suppose, leadership in this space. We've got a number of EI measures that have been put into place to make it easier for people to access EI and to be able to keep their earnings. In previous iterations of EI, for example, if you have severance pay, that's usually clawed back from your first payment. Now, workers who are laid off will be able to keep those payments. And we're also investing with the provinces and territories in rapid skills replacement for affected workers. But this is work that is ongoing, and I think we'll have more to say about it in the next few days.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much. That concludes today's event.